One of the best chefs in North Texas fired up the ovens today, cooking a special Thanksgiving meal for hundreds of domestic violence victims. And he shared more than his culinary skills.
It's an important part here. So.
Chef Jason Harper knows his way around the kitchen and shared something in this one that most people may not know about him.
I come from a broken home. I've got 3 little girls, and for us, it's all about breaking the curse.
A curse of domestic violence that affects everyone in this room at Peace Lutheran Church in Hurst. 126 families brought together by the I Can Still Shine program, helping women survive and thrive in the face of abuse for more than 20 years in North Texas.
And we've helped 10,200 women and kids leave abusive homes. God's helped them. We just serve lunch and give hugs.
And today they came together with food, lots of it. In fact, without even being asked, most people brought a dish of their own to share.
It is one of the most impressive spreads I've ever seen, and I've been doing this my whole life, so it's awesome.
All in all, 600 pounds of turkey, 400 pounds of mashed potatoes, and a clear message from the kitchen.
So much hurting, so much pain. To be able to infuse some light into their world is it's just an unbelievable feeling.
For many, Thanksgiving is about more than just sitting around the table and eating all that great turkey. It's about giving back. Our Kara Dixon is here with more on how a group of volunteers is lending their talents in Virginia Beach to help victims of domestic violence and human trafficking this holiday season. Kara?
Laura, last week we told you about a project to renovate the donation center at the Samaritan House. Well, it started, and volunteers tell me there's no place they'd rather be today. There's no slacking off here at the Samaritan House this Thanksgiving.
It feels great that I'm doing this right now instead of sitting at home putting on about 3,000 calories.
And it's a holiday Tracy Stern is willing to skip because this is for a good reason.
It's serendipitous, I guess you could say, to be out here and just be able to give back in this manner to a great cause.
Stern flips homes, and for the next couple of days, she'll flip the organization's donation center.
And this is the busiest time of year when our neighbors want to give back and want to donate, and so they start purging and cleaning and getting ready for the holidays and everything that's going to be coming in.
So they're here on a day many of us are relaxing, putting in a new center to help those affected by domestic violence and human trafficking, looking for a new start.
It's going to be a brand new look in here.
Patty Howe knows all about remodeling. She owns Hickory Trading Company, which provided coffee for volunteers. She also has her own nonprofit that went through a similar transformation years ago.
So we want to be able to do the same for somebody else because it's exhausting.
While this can take a lot out of people, it's worth it knowing it will bless others.
You just feel really good when you're giving back to the community, and so I wouldn't want to be anywhere else other than this is a great mission.
A great mission that is still in need of help. So if you're feeling in the giving spirit, you still have a chance to come out here to transform a center that's transforming lives.
Don't think that you have nothing to contribute, because we literally have a project for every single person.
And if you'd like to help out, there will be volunteers there for 24 hours straight till 5 p.m. on Monday. I'm Kara Dixon, 10 on your side.
Hi. Wait. What's your name again?
Seriously, like, wait, where am I? What's going on?
I don't know. I thought you just left. I didn't know what happened.
Sorry, my son is saying goodbye. Bye, son. I was gonna disappear, but actually I was in Arizona for 8 days, and my 4-year-old daughter has been telling me every day since I've been back how she's happy that I didn't decide to just live at the airport.
Oh, okay. 8 days in Arizona. Wow. Did you have a good time?
My kids were very much missed me. I had a great time. I was actually running a women's retreat. So there's my husband and I on the Salt River. We had just done a kayaking trip that was very cold and very windy. So it was a little bit tough, but it felt really good to be done with it, I guess I could say. And beautiful scenery, of course. Arizona is gorgeous. That's my best friend Sharon of like 20 years at Hole in the Rock is what it's called in Phoenix. And we did a lot of hiking while we were there. So it was a lot of just outdoor activities and beautiful weather. That's the group of people that I took on the retreat. just amazing, wonderful people that we got to hang out with, get to know, and people that I work with online that I'd never met in real life. So it was like really cool to spend like 4 full days of just hanging out with them, doing yoga and doing all sorts of great things, and then being able to spend some time with my friend that lives in Arizona too.
Wow, and you're showing off your athletic ability there. Very good, very nice. 8 days.
I love yoga. Well, I cut it up. So it was 4 days and then 4 days. So it was 4 days with the women's retreat and then 4 days with my friend.
And 8 days away from the Bambinos?
Yes. It's the longest I've ever been away from them. And it was the first time that David and I have both been away together without the children since we've had 2 children.
Wow. Congratulations. Looks like it was well needed. And I think that's an underestimated thing in marriages or couples, relationships, and families, to take the time to get away and to really experience life together. That's why vacations are so important. When you bypass a vacation because of finances or everything, there's kind of tinkering with the marriage or relationship thing, because you really need that time away.
Well, and we also work together. So there was, so we work together. So we're with each other all the time, but we don't get to spend time really because we're both doing in our own offices, doing our own thing. And then of course there's kids. So then you have to get all the kids stuff, figured out and taken care of. So then there's that kind of stress. So, and getting even a date night sometimes is hard because you have to find the babysitter that's available. And then what do you do? And like you said, if money is tight, and then that becomes an issue. So there's a lot of it can be easy to disconnect from each other. So being able to take that time whenever you can and reconnect is really just so important.
Wow. In case you're just tuning in, this is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. And in 2 weeks, we'll be back up and running at the radio station in Florida, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, and Tampa Bay, Tan Talk Network. And we miss them very much. But we kind of been ebbing and flowing a little bit because of the last couple of weeks, and I'm glad you got a chance to be away. But remind people of the book that you wrote and the work that you do with it.
Sure. So I wrote a #1 new release in codependency called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. And it really focuses on overcoming the cycle of toxic relationships. I share my story and what I went through, but I also share the stories of other people that also were able to create healthy relationships. And then some of the tools that any reader can start utilizing right away to start really creating healthy relationships for themselves too. Because what we find is that there's a lot of really successful and professional women who are doing really well for themselves in business, their career, in other areas. But then when it comes to relationships, we allow way more than we should. We try way too hard to make things work with someone that it shouldn't work with. And we don't give up very easily. And when it comes to bad relationships, that's actually a recipe for disaster. So really, my book is meant to inspire and help motivate people to understand that they don't have to stay trapped. At any moment, they can decide to change their future, and that they have the power to create the life that they want.
Well said. And our network, Chapters Network, under the umbrella of Chapters Community Support Services, a 501c3 nonprofit, we connect with people through networking, collaboration, support, and providing a platform. We have 17 shows, and most of them are all advocacy shows promoting positivity on every level. But basically, our tagline, Chapters Community Support Services, where unity and diversity meet one chapter at a time. It's about unification, bringing people together, not dividing. And we want to create, this show may say, kick unhealthy relationships to the curb, but the focus and the goal is to create healthy relationships, right, Steph?
Exactly. And since we've been doing this, the big thing that we really want to reiterate to everyone is relationships could mean anything. It doesn't just mean romantic relationships. It could be your relationship with family, with friends, with food, with aging, with exercise. I mean, it really could be anything. And all of those relationships together create who we are. So anything that's unhealthy for us, we need to cut those ties or work through them so that we can move forward for ourselves.
That's right. We start the show off. Sometimes we show some commercials or news items. And because it's Thanksgiving time, it's holiday time, and it's a time where families come together. But there's a big population out there that are challenged with domestic violence of some form and wind up in shelters. Sometimes the women or men have to flee those situations, those violent or domestic violent situations with their children, to go to shelters because the funding's not there. Because that's step number one. Sometimes women or men do not leave because of finances, right? So if you don't have shelters like the commercials, like we just saw, providing for people, there's no other option.
Yeah, and it's really sad when someone stays for that reason. I actually, when the first video that we showed with the chef from Texas, my first instinct right away was, oh my gosh, I hope they got permission from those women to show their faces, because
Right.
of course right away I'm thinking I'm in protection mode, like, oh, hopefully they're safe and everything's okay. But I way too often hear women that come to me wanting help, but then they tell me that they don't have a job, they don't have an ability to leave, they don't have any family. They really are totally trapped because of the fact that that everything has been taken away from them. So
Right.
they're left with nothing but the relationship and that person to lean on, even though they're not giving them what they need. And they really are so isolated. So yeah, these types of shelters are, and I remind women all the time, it's not forever, because there's a lot of people that are really scared to go into those shelters. And I say, it's not forever. It's a for now, to get you out of the situation currently, so that we can get you to the new situation. But staying stuck with that toxic, abusive partner is not going to help you move forward.
Right. And every week I go into the Bronx for one of the largest domestic violence shelters in the city system, New York City system. And my partner, Ray Negron, and I go in there, and he kind of plays with the kids sometimes, and I do the counseling with the women and men that are there. But I see the challenges that they have, and the strength that they're trying to develop, because they already did step one. They fled this abusive, toxic situation that's not only harming them, it's harming the children. So the women are leaving, not just with themselves, with children, sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4 children with them. Mm-hmm. And then they're stuck in the shelter situation. So we go there and I work with them and try to develop vocational goals, but also to kind of build up their self-esteem, self-confidence, and their internal resources so that they could move to the next level. And this past Sunday, every year we have we call it Turkey Bowl. So we bring kids from, we had it at Long Island at Rockville Center, the Maple Lanes. Want to give a shout out to the Spinas. Those are some of the children from this shelter that came, and they never bowled before. This is the first time they went bowling. Aww. And we were able to bring them from New York City from the Bronx to Long Island, and they had a great time bowling. We had pizza, we had entertainment, we collected some canned goods for Long Island Cares, and they had the time of their lives. And it goes to show that holiday time is not about receiving, it's about giving.
Yeah. And I love that you're able to do that, Steve. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about you and what you do with the organization, is because it's really about empowering others and giving, giving time. Sometimes that's all you need, is just giving time. It's not always things, like you said. So I think that is really important. And the change that those kids will have based on that one experience of someone they didn't know, opening up the possibility of them doing something they've never done before, that's going to be something that they'll live with forever.
It's a moment in time. So we try to create that. And the saddest thing is always saying goodbye, because you might not see them again, or you hope that you gave them that moment in time to plant a seed. And I used to, when I was younger, really have a tough time with transitioning from these kids and families after an event or something. It's still very hard because you don't know what's out there, but you can only do what you can do. And every Thanksgiving morning for the last 10 years since we've had this program and now network and now nonprofit, every Thanksgiving morning, we show up at a place called Magic Bagels in Valley Stream, Long Island, which we're going to be there tomorrow. Since Hurricane Sandy hit us 10 years ago, we're going to be there tomorrow with Assemblywoman Michael Salaj from District 22. We're collecting canned goods for Long Island Cares. We're collecting unwrapped toys for Trisha's kids. We're giving out turkeys. First come, first serve. We're already giving out last couple of days. and we're giving out turkeys. And we've been doing this every Thanksgiving morning from 7 to 11. We have two great entertainers. Bob D'Amato is going to come out and sing his heart out. And we have Nate Jeezy, who does a show on our network called Never Let Up. That's myself with Assemblywoman Solage. That's me with Long Island Cares. It's about giving back. So if you're in the Long Island area tomorrow, please come out and consider donating canned goods or toys or anything. We're also helping the folks out in Fort Myers with gift cards. They'll be in Florida in a couple of weeks. And so we're really trying to help those folks that are having trouble helping themselves at this point in time. So tomorrow, if you want to have more information, you can contact us at 516-476-6271 or go to chaptersnetwork.org. But it should be a good time, 7 to 11. We'll be there. And then after that, we hand deliver these foods to different shelters and different agencies in the area. And then I come home and watch a little football and have some turkey. So, but it's all about giving back. And I know you're a vegan, so turkey, you don't have turkey, do you?
No turkey, but so what I'm doing tomorrow, we don't have any family here in Texas. And I actually invited people that had no family to come, but I've had no takers yet. But what I am doing tomorrow is I organized a turkey trot in my neighborhood. So we're going to be having the kids start running at 8:30. The adults that want to run more than, or anybody who wants to run more than a mile or walk more than a mile will start at 9 a.m. It looks like rain. I'm hoping it's just going to drizzle and not downpour so that we can, because I like running, but in downpour, not so much. So hopefully that'll be good. And then we plan on just eating all day long and relaxing, watching movies, just relaxing and hanging out for the rest of the day. So we're excited. And yes, we don't eat turkey, but we do eat, there are things that are brands that taste really good. And I mean, realistically, a lot of people don't really like turkey anyway. They like all the sides.
Yeah, it's all the side dishes, and
yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to have football on all day, so that's a good thing too. But you inspire me. But you're doing this yoga, you're going running, and you're going to Arizona to the mountains. I've been, just so you know, 17 straight days I've hit the gym. 17 straight, working hard. Trying to maintain a good diet. I'm using my daughter Giovanna, who does her thing. I know you guys connected, so so in your absence, I've been connecting with my own daughter a little bit more. So it's all good. But it's about Thanksgiving, and we have a segment called Family Feud Moment, and we have a little thing about Thanksgiving before we bring into our guest tonight.
Top 6 answers on the board. Here we go. Name something you hope Grandpa doesn't do at the Thanksgiving table. Heard.
Fart.
Fart. Pass the play.
We're gonna play.
Chantel, tell me something you hope Grandpa don't do at the Thanksgiving table.
Burp.
Burp. Trey, something you hope Grandpa don't do at the Thanksgiving table.
Fall asleep.
Yes. Fall asleep. Miss Eva, tell me something you hope Grandpa don't do at the Thanksgiving table.
Curse. Yes. Start cursing.
Curse. Carice, name something you hope Grandpa doesn't do at the Thanksgiving table.
Get drunk.
Yes. Get drunk.
Yes.
Herb, we got 2 strikes. You got to be careful. Benesky family can steal.
Tell his corny jokes.
Yeah.
Tell them corny jokes. All right, Rhonda, name something you hope Grandpa doesn't do at the Thanksgiving table.
Lose his dentures.
Lose his denture. Number 6. 5.
Well, that's a family feud moment. You have to laugh sometimes, right? We've all had Thanksgiving dinners with Grandpa and Grandma, right?
Yeah, and I think probably the biggest one for everybody, the big joke is like politics. Like, do not bring up politics in any way, shape, or form because they'll be yelling and screaming at some point at the table.
I remember a couple years back, my grandfather, who I love. I mean, I always tried to be like my grandpa, and I don't know if I'm there yet, but he passed away. But we had the biggest Thanksgiving dinner one time, and he started talking about. I'm the oldest between me and my brother. He started talking about funeral arrangements for for him over the Thanksgiving dinner. I said, Grandpa, you think we should be talking about this right now? That this is no, we have to talk about it. I've gotten all these things together. He's always a guy that looked ahead. So grandparents are notorious of bringing subjects up when they want to, and but he actually planned so many things in advance that I look to him to do that kind of stuff. So having any kind of dinner with grandparents, God bless you.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. It's very important, and it's very it's a blessing to have that. So before we bring our guest on, what are you thankful for, Stephanie?
I am very thankful for my family, for my health, and for being able to do what I do every day and helping women really create healthy relationships and stop the cycle of toxic relationships. I think that every day I am just so lucky to be able to, and again, just seeing my clients in person and to hear from their own mouths how much the ripple effects have affected their changes have affected them, but also their children, other family members, people they work with. All these different people that have been affected. David and I were so grateful. We were in tears hearing all of the stories. So definitely grateful for that. How about you?
Same thing. I'm thankful for my family and the love from my friends and the work that I do to be a part of people's lives that really are hurting, and being able to do that for so many years and to with other people to create an even playing field for some people. Sometimes they don't always get the right cards in life, and to be in a position to help them through different situations. And also I'm thankful for what we do together, because it does bring men and women out of these unhealthy relationships or develop ways to create healthy behaviors or rapport with their loved ones. And I think that's what, this show does. And I'm very thankful for all the people behind the scenes, Carmine and Anna and Naya and Nate and Matt and all the people that make the magic happen for these shows, and all our guests that come on and the people that, have been supporting us all along. But without further ado, why don't you introduce our guest for tonight?
Well, I love that we started off talking about how so many women and men, at times stay in these toxic relationships because of money issues. And
Right.
So when I started speaking to Candace, she was talking about how she can help with money management and things related to money. And I think that is such an important topic. And I really hope that everybody that follows me is watching this today, because there is so much that needs to be figured out. There's things that can be done that you might not think about it. And so to have someone who's an expert in managing money, give suggestions and ideas, I think is going to be really helpful. So without further ado, let's bring in Candace all the way from Canada, who's going to be coming and talking to us about money. Hello, Candace.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey,
good.
Candace, how are you?
Good, good.
How's the weather up there? Is it cold?
Not yet. Another couple months, but we're doing pretty good so far.
Good. All my Canadian friends don't even care about the cold. They're like, oh, well, whatever. It's snowshoe weather, or it's ski weather, or whatever. I'm like, that's good.
Yeah. You got to stay active one way or another in winter up here.
That's awesome.
So Candace, what part of Canada are you from?
I'm from Manitoba, which is right in the middle of Canada, just above North Dakota and Minnesota.
Oh, you have that accent. First, I love your accent, and I spent a lot of time in Minnesota. It kind of mirrors people up in Northern America there too.
Yeah.
So it's very appealing. So thank you for joining us tonight. I know we had to change the schedule around the last couple of weeks, so thank you for hanging with us. And Stephanie was talking about money, and how has money How have you helped people with money challenges or questions or establishing budgets throughout your career?
Yeah, so I'm a money coach, and so what people usually start with, like, what is that even, right? And so what we do is just look at people's financial situation from an independent viewpoint. So it's not like going to a bank and applying for a mortgage and then you deal with that piece. And it's not going to an investment specialist and they're helping you buy investments. It's not going to an insurance person and they're helping you buy insurance. It's just an independent person to look at your finances and help you figure out wherever you're at. First of all, that's the first step, is just figuring out where are we at so that we can go from there. And a lot of times with money, people just avoid the topic altogether. So just having that first starting step of, like, where am I? Where am I spending money? Where are my finances at? And, getting your head out of the sand, right?
It's interesting because, obviously we started talking about domestic violence victims, but, marriages in general can have really negative effects because of money. I mean, even my first husband, he was a spender like crazy, would spend all the money. And I was a saver. I had learned to be really frugal with my money to make everything go a long way. And then now my current husband, David, we call him the money monk, where it's like, talk about money is kind of a bad thing. Like he's like, he had to kind of learn how to, especially as business owners, right? I was like, you can't be afraid of money because that's bad for business, And I had realized that my ex-husband must have like rubbed off on me a little bit because I was the spender. I'm like, I've never been the spender. What's going on? So, luckily my husband and I, we're really good about talking about those things, but how do you deal with people that are so like polar opposites when it comes to money and finances? How do you bring them together to actually help them work together to do better for the relationship?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is when one person wants to work on the money and the other person doesn't. So it's just like counseling or anything else, right? You could work on one person, but you can't really work on a marriage if you don't have both people. And this is the same thing. So it's really getting both people in the room and be able to have both people speak and have somebody sort of mediate and ask those hard questions. So I've had couples who, when after we talk, the one will say, I've never heard this before. I don't know how you got him to open up about this stuff. He's never told me any of this. And they've been married forever and ever, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's just, again, having that safe place where people can talk about it, not be judged. It doesn't matter how well you do with money in life. Even people who are well off and super successful still feel like, am I doing okay? I could be doing better. And they have different worries around money of, now I got to invest it well, or I got to make sure I don't lose this money, right? So everybody has money concerns. It doesn't matter if you're struggling and barely making it, or if you have a lot of money.
This is Kick on Healthy Relationships with the Curb. We're here every Wednesday night from 5 to 6 p.m. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're talking money with Candace. And Candace, what's the biggest challenge you have when you bring couples into your office or virtually? What's the first thing you have to overcome with a couple?
The main thing that people kind of struggle with is money mindset. And so we have to really uncover why people spend. Spending tends to be an emotional decision. So logically, we all kind of know you need to make more, you need to save some and not spend so much. But then you get the emotional piece in there and we make emotional decisions, right? Like, what do we have in 2 days in America? And that's rubbed off on us Canadians. We got Black Friday, right? And we've got now Cyber Monday. And so all of these, we all know that people are spending a lot of money those days, and that was not necessarily planned when they go into the store, right? So there's these emotional factors. Another thing might be, I'm struggling, maybe in my relationship, or there's some type of stress at work, and then I go and spend a whole bunch of money, right? So we're using money in emotional ways. And so it's really uncovering that and saying, why are you really spending behind the scenes? It's not necessarily about the spending, but the why behind it. And some of that can go back to what we learn as kids from our parents too.
So what got you? Oh, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Steph. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking about this, what got you so passionate to start teaching this? Because, again, a lot of people, I mean, my dad was really good about teaching me things to do about money growing up. But my husband, he got nothing from his parents related to money. And so many people that I talked to, they never had a conversation with their parents about money. What got you so motivated and interested to do this?
I've done really well in life with, I'm also a real estate agent. And we've invested well, and just done well in life, I guess, in general. And, throughout my real estate career, time and time again, people would say, you're kind of in this trusted situation with people, right? Selling their home. And then they would say, like, I know we're done selling the house now, but can we ask you some money questions? You seem to know about money. Just listening to what people say and what they see in you. And I did already have my Bachelor of Commerce, and I've studied this stuff, pretty much since I was a teenager. I was one of those nerdy kids that read these kinds of books, personal finance stuff. And so it was just a sign, I think, time and time again to hear this. And I just said, enough is enough. It's all about creating legacy and impact and that ripple effect, right? Because again, once you're not in struggle, now you can look at ways to help your community, and all kinds of different things. But when you're in struggle, you can't see past yourself and just getting through day to day, the struggle of life, right? So if I can help one person, and that impacts their kids and that impacts their community, that's basically why I'm doing it.
That's such a good point. I'm sorry, Steph. That's such a good point, because sometimes people, when there's financial struggles, they can't see beyond that.
No.
And they're absorbed with it, and it's so hard to function sometimes. And somebody like yourself could probably bridge that gap, or open up the door, or start discussion, or develop healthier patterns around money, correct?
Yeah, and in North America, it's like, figure it out. Do this on your own. Why can't you figure this out, right? And so we're, number one, about money, we're not supposed to talk about it. We learned that from our parents, like you guys were talking about. And then there's also society saying, figure it out. You're doing this on your own. Someone who's found success, they have to be self-made. Well, no, that's all garbage, right? And social media doesn't help with this kind of thing. So it's really just, again, allowing people to have that opportunity to say, yeah, I'm struggling right now, but what's the next step looking forward, right?
And I'm thinking about some of the people that are potential clients of mine, and sometimes it's really interesting how people spend their money, right? So, like, I have people that are professional, they make good money. But when it comes to investing money in themselves, they get like really uncomfortable, nervous, but if it was someone else that they cared about, they'd have no problem investing that money in someone else. Or if they wanted to buy that Starbucks coffee, or if they wanted to buy that outfit, or, something like that, they wouldn't think twice about it. But for some reason, the getting help to heal and do all that kind of stuff, they say they don't have the money for it. Is that what is that mindset related to money about, what is okay for people to spend money on versus not?
Yeah, and that comes back to personalities and stuff too. Like, I had the same thing recently where a woman posted, I would really love to have a new dress. And I'm thinking, go get the dress, honey. But it's all about spending money on the kids, and I can't spend on myself. And it's just a personality type, and there's lots of different money personality types as well. But yeah, every person has advantages. There's, strengths and weaknesses around your money type. So you can have somebody who spends a lot. Well, you can look at it as, but they also are a lot of fun. And that's a really great personality trait. But you have to still balance that with, okay, I love that you're spontaneous and you do fun things and you take me out for dinner, but we still have to save, right? And the person that's always saving, that's a good thing. But if, like you said, if it's to the detriment, if they're not spending money on themselves, like, life is short, we still have to enjoy life. Mm-hmm. So it's that happy medium, right? And like anything in life, if you go too much to any extreme, it's usually not a good thing.
It's so, the topic of money is so emotionally charged because you mentioned earlier, when you go to high school, they don't teach you about money. They don't teach you about anything. When you go to college, your first semester, the first week, they have all the credit card people at tables trying to connect with the college students that haven't even worked yet, and then they're getting credit cards and debt built up. So there's a breakdown in society with that, but it's so emotionally charged even when wills or people pass away and everything's dictated about money or to borrow money. And I think if there were more people like you to kind of focus on what has to happen with money, how to prioritize things, how to budget things, and within a couple, how do you balance each other out? I'm sure you've captured and been involved with all these different scenarios, right?
Yeah, every stage of life has a different challenges. If you have a college student or a teenager and you could avoid from when you're a teenager to when you retire, right? If you could avoid having a car loan and you could just invest $500 every month instead of having a car loan, you're already a millionaire. And it's just these little things, right? But you got to start early in life. So that's a tip for, younger kids. And then once you get to, what I call the sandwich generation, you're dealing with, aging parents and having those money talks with them, if they'll talk to you about it. There's another struggle, right? So sometimes you don't know what's in your parents' will or if they even have one. And so how do you deal with that, right? And trying to get, again, somebody involved might make it easier instead of it's not parents against kids or kids against kids, right? So just having somebody mediate these really hard discussions just makes things easier.
How do you start a conversation with someone who's really anti talking about money? Like someone that just it makes them uncomfortable. Some people just feels icky to them. How would you start that conversation with them?
Stephanie, why are you looking straight at me when you're asking that question?
I think if they come to the meeting, there's something that they want out of it. And sometimes it's just to be validated and hey, what I'm doing is okay, but they're wrong. Sometimes we have that. Sometimes it's if there is this struggle, even if they don't want to admit it, they don't want these problems in their relationship. So again, it's kind of just uncovering, what are you guys doing well? And not always the negative, right? What are you guys doing well? What do you love doing in life? What's important to you? Really thinking about those values, because that should drive where you're spending money. And so when what you value and where your money is going is aligned, that's great. When you don't have alignment, that's where you can have the stress come up and people just don't feel good about it, right? So if it's really important to me to give to charity, but I never have money to give to charity and I'm going and buying clothes all the time, there's going to be that disconnect within me. You can't trick yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right. No doubt. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're talking to Candace Friesen. And we're talking about money that can really be a problem for a lot of relationships if not handled the right way. And I would imagine you see couples, it's emotionally charged. In your sessions, do you see either the man or the woman or one of the people that are in your office shut down or get defensive at times?
Yeah. Again, money is such a emotional topic. And sometimes couples, they get together and they never talk about money. People just kind of assume this will all work out because we love each other. But that's just not the case. So it's so important to have these conversations. And even if you've been married 20 or 25 years, what my husband and I valued when we were 20 is very different now when we're 40, right? We got married young, so it's been 21 years. And we change as people too, right? So our values change, our goals change, we change as people. And so again, like anything in a relationship, that's also a struggle. And so maybe you started being a saver and now you're a spender, or now, maybe you come into money and this changes everything. So now how you spend money changes. So everything's constantly changing and you have to continue to grow as a couple, whether that's money or anything else.
I was just talking to a client today. I'm sorry again, Steph. We're both charged in this topic, So I had a client today that was talking about a grandparent just passed away, but he didn't complete a will. or life insurance or things like that. And now it's really a challenge for the remaining family members to work through all this. And again, that's about money. And sometimes life insurance is not that expensive, but we have to put them things in the proper perspective, right? I'm sure you're in situations like that as well.
Yeah, and I don't love doing this stuff for myself. None of us do, but we have to do what's responsible, right? So we made a will, but now it's been several years, well, 10 years probably. I'm like, well, we should probably go check on that will again, right? And review it. And well, it's not something that I'm like, man, I can't wait to go see my lawyer about my will. But it's just something that has to be done, right? So if you take the approach of, looking at your numbers every month, I don't like to say the word budget because that gets people a little bit aggravated, but if you look at your financial plan every month and do goal setting, quarterly, make it fun, go out for dinner and then do your planning, or go out for a hotel night and tackle a little bit of the money part and then go for dinner and have fun. Like, make it work for you guys, right? And don't make it something that you dread. Try and find some kind of fun in it. But it's amazing once you are on the same page and you're reaching goals and you look back 5 years and you're like, wow, look at all the cool things we've done. But if you're just on autopilot and you're not being intentional, the years fly by. We all know that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about a few things. When we went on our retreat, one thing we had to do, my sister's a lawyer. And so before we left, I said, okay, well, in our will, we have certain people to watch our children in case something happened to us. And I said to her, we would like you to be the one to be in charge of our children if something happens. And of course, emotions and whatever. And I had a friend over, they're like, what a morbid conversation. I'm like, I'm not thinking that anything's happening to me. Nobody ever does though. And so one of the worst things I've ever seen in families is when they don't talk about money and all of the will of, even their final arrangements, all those things become such major family drama when you don't know ahead of time what those people want. So for me, I've always made sure that, and my parents taught me that, is to be really vocal and open about what you want. Have you seen that where family members really get into those arguments and stressful times and hopefully it's not over a death, but even over divorces and things too? I mean, money becomes a big problem.
Yeah, and stuff like a good lawyer friend of mine, he's like, Candace, there's actually more fights often about the stuff, mom's China and all these different things than there is about the money. So there's also that aspect of it. But yeah, sometimes parents are like, well, my kids are going to fight anyway. I don't want to deal with all these kids and the fighting. I'm just not going to do anything and they can deal with it when I die. Well, I guess you could take that approach, but again, it's probably not the most responsible thing to do. So none of it's easy, but just have the conversations. I agree. When my mom said, well, I want to be cremated, I'm like, but at least I know, right? So, so even if you feel like it's going to be uncomfortable, your family probably will appreciate that you share what you're looking for or what you want for your final arrangements.
How do you change that money mindset?
Takes a lot of work sometimes. Again, it's uncovering where it comes from. So somebody who came from maybe a really a poor background, single mom, food bank, the whole bit, now overcompensates and always has to have a full pantry, is always worried about the money. All those kinds of things come out, right? And so with one couple, I was talking about that and she's like, oh my goodness, I never realized. Yeah, I always do have a full pantry. Well, I didn't even have to look in her pantry, but it's just a common thing, right? That if you didn't have food security as a kid, now it's still a concern for you. So yeah, we often will either do the same as what we learned or opposite, right? So sometimes people had a poor background growing up, but then they overcompensate and they buy way too many gifts for their kids because I didn't have anything, my kids are going to have lots. So there's so many different things with money coaching, and that's why it's very customized to the couple, what they're struggling with, and where they want to go with things.
Two things I want to bring up before Stephanie asks another great question. So I got to get this out. When I grew up, my mom, we were very poor, and the first 2 weeks she would get welfare or Social Security checks, and the first 2 weeks we would live pretty good, really good. But the last 2 weeks, not so much. So that behavior affected me for a long time, because I learned that once you have it, you could spend and not save so much, and then everything's good at that moment. But then when that moment passes, you still have 20 days left of the month. So it took a lot of couples, I'm sure, are going through that. And the second thing I want to bring up is that, the healthcare system. Obviously, the healthcare system in Canada is different than United States. And people, I would imagine, Stephanie, you could correct me maybe with this statistic, at least 50% of Americans don't have great health insurance, if any health insurance. And I know that's probably not the case in Canada, but that, again, it comes down to money and, the jobs that you have. So how do you look at health insurance where you're at, but also with your clients in North America, in the United States?
Yeah, I think that, like anything, you need to be looking at continually improving your situation, right? And so, yeah, it's really easy to say, oh, Candace, you don't have that problem in Canada, or, oh, Stephanie, you have insurance. What are you talking about, right? But I think that we have to continue to look for solutions to those problems. And it could be health insurance. It could be, I need a second car. It could be whatever it is, right? Often what we look at is the budget in terms of how can we save and where can we cut back more and cut back more. But we also have to look at more ways to increase our income. So maybe that's figuring out how to take an extra course. Maybe it's doing a side hustle. Maybe it's asking for a raise, being bold. Maybe it's changing careers. So again, we have to look at getting out of our comfort zone. It's very easy to get into that rut of like, this is my lot in life. But don't just look at your expenses, but look at ways to also increase your income.
That's huge. And I think, and to kind of go back for a second on what Steve said, this is definitely a different or American issue right now is health insurance. And I think all the time about health insurance in our country, because of the fact that before I was a business owner, I got health insurance through the school that I taught at. Mm-hmm. And they told me all the time how great it was, that I didn't even really appreciate how good it was. And then when I left there, I was able to keep that insurance through COBRA, which cost me $2,500 per month. Yeah. And still didn't cover everything because my husband had to be hospitalized. Now, I was able to afford that. All I kept thinking is most people wouldn't be able to afford that and they wouldn't have such good insurance. Well, now my insurance is $1,200 a month. Obviously not as good as the other one, obviously doesn't cover very much at all. But that's also a lot of money for the average person. I mean, unless you're, and so I'm checking every once in a while to see like if there's better. And so far the one I'm on now seems to be the best. But unless you're making like $30,000 or less, which you could get money, you could, for health insurance. But even if you're making $40,000 and you're a family of four, I mean, $1,200 is more than your budget, especially in New York, especially in California, places like that. That's more than what your budget can handle. So, I think that, I mean, in that sense, not to go on a rant, but I think there's definitely, that's something that America doesn't understand even comparatively to Canada, is that how expensive it is and how much it affects, because it really relates to how good of your health is going to be if you can't go see a doctor when you need to. Yeah.
Well, and, our system's not perfect. So, I know you guys look at it as, you don't have any problems, Candace, but people don't get, surgeries or different things done in a quick manner here if you got to wait your turn. So they're paying to go to America. They're paying to go to Germany for back, paying to go to Mexico and getting whatever they dental work done or whatever it is. But so our system isn't perfect either. But ultimately, I think all you can do is do your best, right? Like you said, try and find the best that you can for what you can afford. Continue to try to increase your family income, save and budget and be smart, make smart financial decisions. Have that emergency fund, right? So a guy I went to school with, he went to Germany and, paid 60 or 80 grand to get his back done, right? Where does that money come from? You could refinance your house maybe, or you could put out to GoFundMe, right? But ultimately, yeah, there's always difficult things that come up. You know, as much as you try to do the best you can with finances, there's also just stuff that comes up, right?
And so, you know, that's an important thing to bring up is the rainy day fund. I mean, that's what they used to say that you needed to have at least 6 months of your bills in reserve in case anything happens, right? So is that still, do they still recommend that? I almost feel like they should recommend longer than that. And not only should they recommend longer than that, but who can even really do that? Because a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Stephanie, did you say 6 months or 6 days?
Well, that's right. That's the issue.
I know.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like you're living, you know, when you barely are making enough to pay your regular bills, how do you save up 6 months worth of money?
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing is, like anything in life, if you look at the mountain, you're like, I can't even do that. I'm not even going there.
Mhm.
But if you look at, hey, I got to save $1,000. Hey, now I got to make it $1,500 and build your way up, then I think that's what's important. I also think, yes, it's good because you could lose your job and it can take a while to find a job. Like, let's be real about that. But, you know, if we look at the smaller things that could come up, you know, here in Canada, if the furnace goes out in mid-December, we got to get that furnace replaced as soon as possible, right? We don't have time. And, you know, everybody will have different emergencies. It could be tires on your car or an engine. And, you know, so if I think of those sorts of things, you know, if you had even 3,000 to 5,000 would get you through quite a few of the things that might come up. Again, you know, we could try and plan for every catastrophe that could happen to us, and we could try and plan for things like COVID. But realistically, you know, I think we have to look at what's the probability of things coming up and how much do we need to cover most of the things. So yeah, if you've got 100 grand sitting in savings just in case, awesome, way to go. But how about we focus on getting 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000?
Yeah, and anyone who thinks that it is impossible, that, you know, I've actually, so when I was a teacher, I taught health, and I tried to, since nobody else was teaching anything about money, I tried to bring up just little things. And I was talking about, as an example, of a pack of cigarettes, and or kids that were smoking weed or something like that. And I would say, you know, hey guys, because I taught high school, you know, hey, you say you don't have any money, but you can afford XYZ. You go get your coffee, you get your cigarettes, or whatever it is that you're getting. Now, instead of putting that money into the junk, the thing that's not going to help you move forward in life, now instead, every time you were going to do that, you put that money to the side. You will be amazed. And I did the math over the year. And the kids were, their minds were blown at how much money. And we talked about, you know, so the alcohol, you start going through all the things where, because these kids came from low income, you know, homes, and parents were always discussing and complaining that they didn't have any money. But then the kids would talk about the beer they got, the cigarettes they got, the, you know, the things that they bought that was really not helpful for the house, but they were able to afford those things.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone always picks on the Starbucks coffee, right? However, you know, it kind of goes back to like, why do you feel you have to have a Starbucks cup, right? The coffee at home is also good, but there's something about bringing that cup into work. Okay, well, then it's about how you feel as a person, being accepted. So again, it becomes this emotional decision, or this, I got to fit in with everybody else, and saying, okay, is that really worth it?
It's even like getting a cup of tea. It's a Lipton bag in hot water, $2.75. I mean, I can do that at home. I don't need to do that. I mean, it's and I like that. You have to make choices on what's really important and where your money's going. Real quick, because we're almost out of time, Candace, the top 3 things you would tell people that have to turn things around on their view on money. And by the way, that's a beautiful picture of your family. That is an amazing picture. I was watching them earlier in the show. And I want to make sure I told you that. Beautiful picture.
Well, they say 2 kids, $1 million. I guess this is the $2 million family, but thank you. So yeah, you know, I think that number 1 is you got to live below your means. And second of all, start saving and investing as soon as possible. And 3, get super clear on what you want out of life, what's important to you, and make sure that where you're spending the money aligns with what is important to you.
And how can people get a hold of you, Candace?
The easiest, I'm online all over the place, but the easiest is my website, which is investorsmarts.ca. CA is for Canada, so investorsmarts.ca.
So I want to put you on speed dial because I'm always challenged with money every single day. So I got you here. So we're gonna have to bring her back on, Stephanie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would really benefit learning more and being really honest with themselves and vulnerable about their mindset around money so that they can change and make things better for themselves. Because who needs that extra stress? I mean, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
Well, Candace, God bless. Thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll definitely see you down the road real soon.
Yeah, thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Wow, Stephanie, she's amazing.
Yeah, and of course, talking about money right before the holidays, some people might have been like squirming a little bit in their seats, but I think it's probably the best time of year to start talking about this stuff. Don't wait till January. Let's talk about it beforehand.
Right. Well, now that Candace not on, can I borrow $20?
No, it's mine.
Hey, I learned from you too. Just again, you don't have to spend money to have a good time. You can go away, camping, different things. You have to be creative. It's a mindset. You don't always have to go to the movies or go out to dinner or spend money on different thing. You can create your own fun, your own relaxation, your own respite, right?
Exactly. And it's important to remind yourself of that because I feel like in this day and age, it feels like you have to pay money all the time to be able to do anything. It's like you have to pay to be alive. It feels like sometimes, but you don't. There are plenty of opportunities to do free things or do nice things for others that don't cost anything at all.
Right. Well, anyway, we're almost.
I think I lost Steve. Nope. I think I lost Steve. I don't know what he was going to say. Oh, there he is.
Well, we're going to end the show. We're having some technical issues. I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, it's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. And we're going to end tonight's show with Robbie Robinson playing something on the piano, wishing us all a happy Thanksgiving.